Welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. The Tennessee Supreme Court recently delivered a victory to a husband who had been ordered to pay lifetime alimony in a case that could determine the future of how spousal support is awarded in the state. In a unanimous decision, the state's highest court ruled the award of lifetime alimony and attorney fees to the man's ex-wife were inappropriate because even though the husband had a higher salary, the wife was in good health, held a stable, well-paying job, and received considerable assets through the division of marital property. Now, this ruling illustrates a more modern approach to determining alimony that takes into account a wife's occupation and earning capacity. One of the attorneys who successfully argued the appeal on behalf of the husband is Jeffrey Levy, a family law attorney based in Nashville, and we're going to talk with him about the case and its potential impacts. So, Jeffrey, thank you very much for joining me.
And thank you very much for having me.
Now, I know many of our viewers feel a personal connection to this case as they have been saddled with unrealistic and unfair lifetime alimony obligations. So how did you convince your state Supreme Court that this award was unreasonable?
I have to tell you that in Tennessee, it's long been part of our statutes that there are specific factors that have to be taken into account in determining whether there should be alimony at all, what form it should take, how long it should last, and what the amount should be. And in fact, in most cases, alimony is not awarded. Of the 12 factors that are in the statute, in fact, the two major factors, and the courts have said this over and over again, are the obligor, and that's usually the husband, his ability to pay, and the real need of the recipient spouse, which is typically the wife. And in this case, we were able to show that the Court of Appeals, which had overruled the trial court in the first place, should not have overruled the trial court. The trial court was in a perfect position to see that the wife did not need alimony and that she had not demonstrated the case for alimony. We were also able to show there was just no reason to give her alimony because she hadn't even demonstrated a real need for it.
Right. Well, as mentioned in the intro, she was in good health, had a stable job, and it was a well-paying job, even though her salary was less than her husband's. So there were good arguments there, but I'm still guessing this is a rare occurrence for the Supreme Court to overturn an award of alimony. So how confident were you as you awaited the opinion being handed down?
The Tennessee Supreme Court takes maybe one or two family law cases a year. When they take a case, it's generally because they know that there's been a mistake as a matter of law in the lower courts. And in this case, once the Supreme Court decided to take the case, and it was something of a battle to get them to take it in the first place, but once they took the case, we knew that they were going to do something, but we didn't know what. And in fact, I have to say that the Supreme Court, I think, did our client even more justice than we had expected.
Now, there's a standard belief that the spouse receiving alimony, which is, as you mentioned, overwhelmingly the wife. Actually, a 2008 U.S. Census Bureau report reported that 97% of alimony recipients were women. So there's the sort of standard out there that the receiving spouse expects that they will forever be able to enjoy a lifestyle equal to that of the paying spouse. But how did the Supreme Court address that issue in its opinion?
Well, actually, it's rather interesting, and it wasn't the main focus of the decision, but I think it's probably going to be a part that gets cited over and over again.
Right.
The court, in previous decisions, there had been two, I guess, almost competing lines of argument. One is that with reasonable effort, a divorcing spouse, should reasonably be able to approach either the standard of living that the parties had shared during the marriage or the post-divorce standard of living that the other spouse can be expected to have. So that's one side of the coin. The other side is that there's also a line of cases that said that essentially alimony is not meant to keep somebody on easy street forever. It's effectively not an insurance policy. And one of the important things that the Supreme Court did in this case was, I think, to reconcile those two conflicting arguments.
Mm-hmm. Well, finally, how will this ruling affect future alimony decisions?
I think it's going to have a major impact sometime in a number of ways. One is that it has thrown the ball back to the trial courts. And I think the courts of appeal are going to be a lot less anxious to overturn trial courts that have a chance to see the witnesses and to assess their credibility and to assess the evidence. Second thing it's going to do is that it's going to make things even more, or it's going to make it more important for the attorneys at the trial level to get the appropriate evidence into the record. Part of the problem here, frankly, is that the wife's attorney quoted the difference in earnings between husband and wife, but didn't make a very strong case that she actually needed more than she was already earning. And so it just didn't establish one of those important criteria, which was her basic need.
Well, Jeffrey, I want to thank you very much again for joining me, and congratulations on the victory.
I want to thank you very much, and thanks again for having me.
That was Jeffrey Levy, a family law attorney based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and you can learn more about him by visiting his website, familylawtn.com. That'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com.